Trump authorized Giuliani to change the story. Trump knew the money was paid to Stormy Daniels. The president of the US has essentially been caught lying. Why reveal that he paid her off now?
I think he has to, because the FBI raided Michael Cohen's office recently, and that's Trump's attorney who made the $130,000 payment. Surely that raid revealed the financial records that showed that the payment happened and that showed that the repayment, the reimbursement happened. So having lied and said he didn't know anything about it and that the payment was made only by Michael Cohen, now he's caught because there are records to show otherwise. So now he's trying to clean it up. It's an absolute mess. And let's be clear, the President of the United States has lied to us.
But we're in a situation now where it's clear that he is saying that it was personal money went into that payment that Michael Cohen then paid out. So therefore, that would suggest that he thinks that that avoids any idea that there's a violation of the use of campaign funds.
Yeah, except for the law. And the law says that if you make a loan to somebody for the purpose of influencing the election, and clearly that's what happened here because the election was only about a week later, now Donald Trump, through his terrible attorney, Rudy Giuliani, is saying that that loan was made and then repaid later. Well, a loan is a campaign finance contribution. It has to be reported. Simply saying it's not doesn't change the fact that the law says it is, and I think that he's in deep trouble.
Well, Marc Fisher, that was an extraordinary White House press briefing with Sarah Sanders. I mean, under serious pressure, and it looked like the press secretary was being kept in the dark. I mean, is that pretty extraordinary?
Well, no, I think that's fairly standard in this administration. The press secretary only knows what the president has told her. The president basically acts as his own communications director. In this case, what we're seeing is that Rudy Giuliani is privately meeting with the president, having phone calls, and they're cooking up this new strategy, and they don't bother to tell anybody else about it. So neither the White House lawyers nor the press secretary knew anything about Giuliani's plan to go out and reveal this and say that the president essentially had lied in his previous statement. In Donald Trump's mind, there is no past tense. This is all happening right in the moment. And so in the moment, it makes sense for him to now admit or have someone admit for him that this payment took place.
Does it matter, do you think? I mean, you've written about President Trump. Does it matter to President Trump that essentially America and indeed the world know that he has been untruthful about this? Does it actually cross his consciousness?
I don't think it matters to him in the least. What he's doing is protecting himself. He's using his new lawyer to protect him from legal jeopardy, he hopes, in this instance. And that has nothing to do with anything that came before or will come in the future. He may well go back to saying that he never made any such payment. His track record through the years is that he will often revert to the original lie when it's beneficial to him to do so. What people think of him in this case really is not an issue because that's already baked in. That's factored in going back to Access Hollywood and all of the previous problems.
So the fact is, though, Lisa Bloom, that there's no sense in which any of this will actually stick.
Oh, I think there's a strong sense that it's going to stick. I mean, Stormy Daniels is not giving up. Her attorney is not giving up. They're going to see this through, they say, until the truth is revealed to the American people. And we've already seen this lie exposed. It's absolutely appalling. I think there's also some major issues with Trump's attorney, Michael Cohen, which is why Trump is turning on him now, planting a negative article about him in the National Enquirer, for example. I think he's trying to distance himself from Michael Cohen. I think there's some major potential bank fraud issues, finance, accounting issues. I think we have a long way to go until we get to the bottom of this.
But Marc Fisher, you know, if President Trump is going to make significant improvements in North Korea, you know, if he's taking taxes down, if he's improving the economy, nothing that in his base is going to say anything, well, actually, it's not going to make any difference what we think of him. That's his personal predilections. Our lives are getting better.
Well, exactly, and they will see this as one more instance in a long series of cases in which Donald Trump kind of pushes back against the elite, pushes back against the powers that be, in this case pushes back against the investigation against him. And so those who cheer him on in all the ways that he is a great disruptor, their view of him is only going to be enhanced by this image of him essentially saying, hey, I can lie and get away with it.
And Lisa Bloom, you know, the Republicans aren't going to bring him down, are they?
I doubt that. They've stuck with him through thick and thin, but the American people have a midterm election coming up later this year. I think there's a blue wave of Democrats. There are a lot of women running in particular. I've been doing a lot of events in support of them, and I think there's going to be a backlash. I think people, whatever their political party, expect a president who tells us the truth. You know, Americans are a very forgiving people. If somebody cops to a mistake and they apologize, we're willing to forgive them. But we don't like being lied to, and I think that applies to both Democrats and Republicans.
Marc Fisher, is there any sense in which you think America, and you talked about this, you know, Americans don't like to be lied to and there's a kind of Puritan streak, is there any sense in which America would be ashamed in the world to have a president that doesn't live up to standards in public life?
Well, sure, and a great many Trump supporters are embarrassed by the president's language, by the way in which he behaves on Twitter and so on. And I think what you'll find is that over time, a lot of his supporters will express that embarrassment by moving on. However, if they are forced by the Democrats or other opponents of Trump to cry uncle and say, hey, we made a mistake and this guy's terrible, they're not going to do that. And so there's really a political dance going on here where if they're made to say, hey, I made a mistake, they're not going to do it, whereas if they're allowed to eventually say, let's move on, they're likely to do that.
And finally, Lisa Bloom, a mistake is actually not just a mistake, but a lie. And do you think that actually perhaps on the back of this, you represented other women in Trump's purview? Do you think we might have a rash of more women coming forward?
I hope we do. As you know, I've represented 4 women who accused Trump of sexual misconduct, 2 who came out publicly, 2 who did not. And I've spoken to other women who want to come out but are afraid. You know, this is the year of the woman worldwide. Stormy Daniels is the one who had the courage to come out and speak her truth, notwithstanding a confidentiality agreement and $1 million penalty. She doesn't care. She's doing the right thing. And I would encourage any other woman who has a story to reach out to an attorney in confidence, find out what your rights are. This is our time. This is our time to be what we are meant to be, and I think to stand up to President Trump and anybody else who would abuse us.